Imagine a factory where the raw material isn't steel or wood, but human flesh. A place where the screams were muffled by thick concrete walls and the victims were stripped of their names, referred to only as maruta, or logs. Welcome to Pingfang, the site of Unit 731, a nightmare of biological horror that remained hidden in the shadows of history for decades. Tonight, we peel back the layers of the most terrifying scientific facility ever built. It began with one man's twisted ambition, Shiro Ishii, a brilliant physician turned biological warlord. In the 1930s, Ishii convinced the Japanese High Command that the next war wouldn't be won with bullets, but with germs. He envisioned a weapon that could wipe out entire cities without firing a single shot. To realize this, he built a massive complex in occupied Manchuria, a sprawling fortress dedicated to the dark arts of death. The facility at Pingfang was more than a lab. It was a self-sustaining city of horror. It housed thousands of researchers and soldiers. But its true purpose was contained within the Rho block, the inner sanctum where the maruta were kept. Men, women, children, and even pregnant captives. They were injected with plague, anthrax, and cholera, all to see how quickly the human body would crumble under the weight of biological terror. But biological agents were just the beginning. The researchers at Unit 731 wanted to know the limits of human endurance. They conducted frostbite experiments, freezing the limbs of captives, and then hammering them to hear the sound of frozen flesh cracking like ice. Then came the vivisections, operations performed on living, breathing humans without any form of anesthesia. They wanted to witness the organs failing in real time. The secrecy was absolute. To the outside world, this was the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department. Employees were sworn to death. If a researcher ever spoke of what happened inside, they faced the same fate as the logs. But as the war turned against Japan in 1945, the order came from the highest level. Destroy the evidence. Blow up the buildings. Kill the remaining witnesses. Leave nothing behind. But here is the most disturbing part of the story. Most of the lead scientists of Unit 731 were never prosecuted. In fact, many went on to become prominent figures in Japan's post-war medical and political world. Why? Because of a secret deal made with the United States. A deal that traded the data of human suffering for total immunity. The horror didn't end in 1945. It was simply buried for a price. The biological bombs developed in Unit 731 were actually used. Fleas infected with the bubonic plague were dropped over Chinese cities by low-flying aircraft. This wasn't theoretical. It was an active genocide through disease. Thousands died in agony from a plague they couldn't see, delivered by a military force that viewed them as nothing more than biological test subjects. The sheer scale of the operation was unprecedented in the history of warfare, but the biological torture went even further. Researchers were obsessed with the limits of the human lung. They placed victims into high-pressure chambers, slowly vacuuming the air out until their internal organs literally ruptured and exited their bodies. They timed these deaths with stopwatches, recording every convulsion. For Ishii and his team, this wasn't murder. It was data. They were mapping the boundaries of human survival in the most sadistic way possible. Perhaps the darkest chapter was reserved for mothers and their unborn children. Women who became pregnant in the camps, often through forced experimentation, were subjected to the same horrors. Scientists would perform vivisections on pregnant women to study the transmission of diseases from mother to fetus. They opened them up while they were still alive to see the effects of the plague on the unborn. There are no words in any language to describe the depravity of these rooms. Unit 731 was also a testing ground for weapons. Victims were tied to wooden stakes at varying distances to test the effectiveness of flamethrowers, shrapnel bombs, and chemical sprays. Shiro Ishii wanted to know the exact distance at which a human being would be incinerated or choked to death. They stood there with clipboards, watching as human lives were extinguished like candles in a storm, all to calibrate the machinery of the Japanese Empire. August 1945. The Soviet Union declares war on Japan and begins its invasion of Manchuria. Panic grips the facility. Shiro Ishii realizes that if the world sees what they've done, there will be no mercy. He gives the order to erase everything. This wasn't just about burning papers. It was about liquidating the witnesses. Every remaining prisoner, man, woman, and child, was gassed or poisoned. Their bodies were thrown into massive crematoriums that ran day and night until the sky over Pingfang turned black with human ash. As Ishii and his top officers fled to Japan, they carried with them the ultimate insurance policy: thousands of slides, tissue samples, and detailed reports of their experiments. When the Americans arrived, they didn't see war criminals. They saw a gold mine of biological data that would have taken decades to acquire legally. General Douglas MacArthur made a secret deal. In exchange for the full results of the experiments, the U.S. government granted Shiro Ishii and his staff total immunity from prosecution at the Tokyo War Crimes Tribunal. The legacy of Unit 731 is not just in the history books, it's in our medicine. Some of the data on frostbite and high-altitude survival used by modern science was paid for with the lives of those in Pingfang. Many of the Unit 731 doctors didn't go to jail. They became deans of medical schools, heads of pharmaceutical companies, and even high-ranking officials in the Japanese Ministry of Health. Shiro Ishii himself lived a quiet life until 1959, never answering for a single life he destroyed. Unit 731 stands as a haunting reminder of what happens when science is divorced from morality, when humans are reduced to logs and curiosity becomes a weapon. Today, the ruins of Pingfang still stand, a silent, gray scar on the landscape of China. We tell this story not to relive the horror, but to ensure that the names of the Maruta are never truly forgotten. Because when we forget the darkness, we allow it to return. Thank you for watching Wikivedia Plus.